It all started on a Thursday evening, one of those nights when you just want to relax after a long day. I walked through the door exhausted, hoping for some quiet time, but the moment I stepped in, I knew something was off. Sarah, my wife of 8 years, was in our bedroom, getting ready to go out. The air felt tense, like an argument waiting to happen. Sarah was standing in front of the mirror, applying makeup with more care than usual. Her outfit, a sleek black dress I hadn't seen before, was far from her typical style. It clung to her in a way that made it clear she wasn't dressing up for a casual outing with her girlfriends. Something about it made my stomach tighten with unease. "Where are you going?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Out," she replied curtly, not even glancing in my direction. "Out where?" I pressed, trying to hide the frustration creeping into my voice. "You know I don't feel comfortable with you going to those clubs." She finally turned to look at me, her face a mix of irritation and defiance. "I'm going with Brenda and Jessica. We've had this conversation before, haven't we? I need a break, some time to myself." I could feel the tension rising in my chest. "Sarah, we've talked about this. Those places aren't safe, and it feels disrespectful to our marriage. You come home late, drunk, and I'm just supposed to sit here and act like it's fine." Sarah rolled her eyes and let out an exasperated sigh. "You always make it about you, don't you? This isn't about disrespect. This is about me needing to breathe. I can't just sit here and waste my life away." "Waste your life," I repeated, the words stinging more than they should have. "That's what you think of this, of us." She turned back to the mirror, adjusting her lipstick. "Don't be so dramatic. I'm going out, that's it. You're not my father, and you don't get to control me." Her words cut deep, but I tried to stay calm. "I'm not trying to control you, Sarah. I'm asking for some respect. We're married. This isn't how married people act." She grabbed her purse and started walking toward the door, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "If you had half a clue, you'd realize that smothering me isn't respect. It's suffocating." I followed her to the door, desperation creeping into my voice. "Sarah, please, can't we just talk about this?" She paused, her hand on the doorknob, and turned to look at me. For a moment, I thought I saw something in her eyes, regret. Maybe, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "We'll talk when I get back," she said coldly, then slammed the door behind her. I stood there, staring at the closed door, a thousand thoughts racing through my mind. I wanted to trust her, to believe that this was just a phase or a misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew better. Something was changing between us, and it wasn't for the better. I spent the rest of the evening pacing the living room, staring at my phone, wondering if I should call or text her. But I didn't. I just sat there waiting, feeling more powerless with each passing hour. Sarah didn't come home until nearly 3 in the morning. I was still awake when I heard the sound of her heels clicking on the driveway. When she walked in, her makeup was smudged, her hair disheveled, and there was a faint smell of alcohol clinging to her. "Had fun?" I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. She didn't answer, just tossed her purse onto the couch and stumbled toward the bedroom. I wanted to demand answers, to ask her where she'd been and who she'd been with, but the look on her face stopped me. She looked distant, almost cold, as if I wasn't even there. That night, as I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling, I realized that something had shifted between us. It wasn't just the late nights or the arguments. It was something deeper, something I couldn't quite put into words. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt truly alone. The next morning, Sarah acted as if nothing had happened. She woke up, brewed herself a cup of coffee, and scrolled through her phone like it was just another day. Meanwhile, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at her, trying to figure out how to approach the conversation without it turning into another argument. "Sarah, can we talk about last night?" I finally asked, breaking the heavy silence. She barely looked up from her phone. "What about it? What about it?" I repeated, incredulous. "You came home at 3 in the morning, smelling like a bar, looking like—" I stopped myself, not wanting to escalate things further. "I just think we need to talk about where this is going. This isn't normal, Sarah." She let out a short laugh, the kind that wasn't meant to be funny. "Oh, so now you're the expert on normal? Please enlighten me. What exactly do you think I'm doing?" "I don't know," I said, feeling the frustration bubbling inside me. "That's the problem. You're not the same anymore. You're distant, cold. It's like you don't even care about us anymore." She finally put her phone down, her eyes locking onto mine with a sharpness that sent a chill down my spine. Don't you dare try to guilt me. Do you have any idea how suffocating you've been? Always questioning, always hovering. Maybe the problem isn't me. Maybe it's you. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Suffocating, Sarah? I'm just trying to understand why you're acting this way. We used to talk, laugh, share things. Now it feels like you're always looking for an escape. She stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. I don't need this. I don't need you sitting here, judging me, trying to control my life. Maybe if you spent half as much time working on yourself as you do worrying about me, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I sat there stunned as she stormed out of the kitchen. The sound of the bedroom door slamming shut echoed through the house, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a growing sense of dread. For the rest of the day, Sarah barely spoke to me. When she wasn't on her phone, she was pacing around the house, clearly agitated. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she wasn't telling me, something she was deliberately hiding. But every time I tried to bring it up, she either deflected or lashed out, leaving me more confused and hurt than before. That evening, I decided to check her social media. I hated doing it. It felt invasive, like I was crossing a line, but I needed answers. Her profiles were mostly private, but there were a few posts and photos from the night before. One picture in particular caught my attention. It was a group shot taken at a club downtown. Sarah was in the middle, holding a drink, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. Next to her was a man I didn't recognize. He had his arm around her waist, his hand resting a little too comfortably on her hip. My heart sank. I wanted to believe it was innocent, that it was just a friend or someone she knew through Brenda and Jessica, but the way she was leaning into him, the way he was looking at her, it didn't feel innocent. It felt like a betrayal. When Sarah came back into the living room later that night, I decided to confront her. "Who's the guy in the photo?" I asked, holding up my phone so she could see the screen. She glanced at it, her expression unreadable. "Just a friend," she said casually, like it wasn't a big deal. "A friend?" I repeated, my voice rising. "Sarah, he's got his hand all over you. That doesn't look like just a friend to me." She crossed her arms, clearly annoyed. "You're reading too much into it. It's nothing, all right? Stop making everything into a problem." "I'm making it a problem," I said, incredulous. "Sarah, you've been shutting me out for months, going to clubs, staying out late, and now there's some guy with his hands on you in a photo. How am I supposed to feel about that?" She rolled her eyes. "You're supposed to trust me. But clearly, that's too much to ask." "Trust?" I said, my voice cracking. "How can I trust you when you're acting like this? When you're hiding things from me?" "I'm not hiding anything," she snapped, her voice echoing through the room. "You're the one who's always digging, always assuming the worst. Maybe if you backed off for once, we wouldn't be having this conversation." She stormed out of the room before I could say anything else, leaving me standing there, holding my phone, my mind racing. I wanted to believe her, to give her the benefit of the doubt, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. That night, as I lay awake in bed, listening to the sound of her breathing beside me, I realized that the woman I had married was slipping away, and I had no idea how to stop it. The next few days were unbearable. Sarah avoided me at every turn, retreating into her phone or disappearing for hours without explanation. I tried to act normal, to keep things civil, but it felt like I was living with a stranger. Every time I looked at her, I saw the man in the photo, his hand on her waist, her smile that wasn't meant for me. By the weekend, the tension between us had grown so thick, it was suffocating. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers, clarity, anything to make sense of what was happening. So when she casually mentioned she was going out again with Brenda and Jessica, I made a decision I never thought I'd have to make. "Where are you going this time?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Sarah didn't even glance up from her phone. "Same place as last time. It's no big deal." "It's a big deal to me," I said, my tone sharper than I intended. "Sarah, I'm your husband. Don't I deserve to know what's going on?" She let out an exasperated sigh, finally meeting my gaze. "What's going on is that I'm trying to have a life. You should try it sometime." Her words stung, but I kept my composure. "All right, have your fun," I said, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "But maybe I'll go out too. Get a life of my own." Sarah raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting that response. "Do whatever you want," she said, brushing past me on her way to the door. "Just don't wait up." As soon as the door closed behind her, I grabbed my car keys. If she wasn't going to tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. I didn't feel good about following her, but at this point, I didn't see another option. I parked a few blocks away from the club and waited. It wasn't long before I spotted her walking in, her black dress hugging her figure, her heels clicking against the pavement. She was alone, at least for now. I waited a few minutes, then followed her inside. The club was loud and packed, the bass thumping so hard I could feel it in my chest. I kept to the shadows, trying to stay unnoticed. It didn't take long to spot her at the bar, laughing with Brenda and Jessica, but my eyes weren't on them. They were on him, the man from the photo. He was there, standing just a little too close, his hand brushing against hers as they talked. I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak as I watched them. She leaned in, whispering something in his ear, and he laughed, placing his hand on her lower back. It was clear now. This wasn't innocent. This wasn't just a friend. I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to confront her right then and there. But I knew it wouldn't end well. She'd accuse me of spying, turn it around on me, and I'd still be left with no answers. So instead, I pulled out my phone and started recording. If she wanted to deny it later, she wouldn't be able to. After about an hour, they moved to a quieter corner of the club. I followed at a safe distance, staying out of sight. They were talking, laughing, their bodies angled toward each other in a way that made my stomach churn. And then it happened. He leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a quick peck or an innocent gesture. It was passionate, intimate, something I hadn't seen from her in months. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My hands were shaking as I stopped the recording and slipped out of the club. I couldn't watch anymore. I couldn't bear to see the woman I loved with someone else, acting like I didn't even exist. When I got home, I sat in the dark, staring at the video on my phone. I wanted to delete it, to pretend it didn't exist, but I couldn't. It was the truth, ugly and undeniable. And as much as it hurt, I knew I needed to face it. Sarah came home around 2 in the morning, her hair slightly disheveled, the faint smell of alcohol clinging to her. She didn't even bother to check if I was awake. She just kicked off her heels, tossed her purse on the couch, and went straight to bed. I stayed up all night, replaying the video over and over, wondering how we had gotten to this point. How had the woman who once promised to love me forever turned into someone I barely recognized? And more importantly, what was I supposed to do now? The following morning, I felt like a zombie. I hadn't slept at all, and every muscle in my body ached from the tension. Sarah, on the other hand, was acting as if everything was perfectly fine. She was humming in the kitchen, sipping her coffee, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. The sight of her acting so casual, so unaffected, made my blood boil. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low but firm. She glanced up from her phone, her expression slightly annoyed. "About what?" "About last night," I replied, crossing my arms. "About the club. About him." Her face froze for a split second before she quickly composed herself. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, feigning confusion. "Don't play dumb, Sarah." I snapped, my frustration spilling over. "I saw you. I was there. I saw everything." Her eyes widened for a moment, but then she narrowed them, her face twisting into a scowl. "You followed me? Are you serious? Do you have any idea how insane that is?" "Insane?" I shot back. "Insane is sneaking around behind my back, lying to me, and kissing another man in a club. Don't you dare try to make me the bad guy here." She stood up, slamming her coffee cup on the counter. "Oh, so now you're spying on me, recording me? That's disgusting, you know that." "Disgusting," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "You're calling me disgusting, Sarah? I saw you kissing him. How do you even begin to justify that?" She crossed her arms, her jaw tightening. "You don't understand anything. He's just a friend. We were joking around. It wasn't what it looked like." "Don't lie to me, Sarah," I said, my voice cracking. "I have the video. I saw everything. You think I'm blind? You think I'm stupid?" Her eyes darted to the side, her confidence faltering for a moment. But then, as if flipping a switch, she shrugged and said, "Fine. So what if I did kiss him? It's not like you've been the perfect husband." The sheer audacity of her words left me speechless. I stared at her, my heart pounding in my chest. "Excuse me? What is that supposed to mean?" She threw her hands up, her voice rising. "It means you're boring, all right? You're always working, always complaining, always so predictable. I needed something else, something exciting. Can you blame me for that?" "Can I blame you?" I repeated, incredulous. "Yes, Sarah, I can. We're married. You don't get to just need something else and destroy everything we've built together. Oh, please, she scoffed, rolling her eyes. Don't act like this marriage has been perfect. You're so wrapped up in your little routine that you don't even see me anymore. I'm just a piece of furniture to you. Her words stung, but I wasn't about to let her twist this into my fault. I see you, Sarah, I said, my voice trembling. I've always seen you. I've supported you, loved you, done everything I could to make you happy. And this is how you repay me. She shook her head, her expression cold. Maybe if you weren't so suffocating, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. Her words hit me like a knife to the chest. I felt the air leave my lungs, and for a moment, I couldn't even respond. I just stood there, staring at her, wondering how the woman I had loved for so long could say something so cruel. Finally, I found my voice. If that's how you feel, why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you say you were unhappy instead of sneaking around like a coward? She laughed bitterly. Because you don't listen, Jason. You never listen. Every time I try to talk to you, you either brush me off or make it about you. So yeah, maybe I made a mistake, but at least I did something. At least I'm not just sitting here pretending everything's fine. I stared at her, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to throw something, to do anything to release the anger and pain boiling inside me. But instead, I just shook my head and walked away. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep trying to fix something that she clearly didn't care about. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, replaying our argument over and over in my mind. Her words, her tone, her complete lack of remorse. It all felt like a slap in the face. I knew our marriage was in trouble, but this was something else entirely. That night, Sarah left again. She didn't say where she was going, and I didn't ask. I just sat on the couch, staring at the door long after it had closed behind her, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. And for the first time, I started to think about what life might look like without her. Sarah didn't come home until almost dawn. The sound of the door creaking open woke me from a shallow, restless sleep on the couch. I sat up, my heart pounding, but I didn't say anything. I just watched her quietly as she tiptoed in, her heels in hand, her makeup smudged. She looked startled when she saw me, like she hadn't expected me to still be awake. "You're up?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah," I replied, my tone flat. "I couldn't sleep." She nodded awkwardly, then started toward the bedroom without another word. "That's it," I said, my voice stopping her in her tracks. "You're not even going to explain yourself?" She turned around, her expression tired and irritated. "Explain what, Jason? You already think the worst of me, so what's the point?" I stood, running a hand through my hair in frustration. "The point is, I deserve the truth, Sarah. Where were you? Who are you with? What are you even doing anymore?" She sighed heavily, crossing her arms. "I was out with friends, okay? Can we not do this right now?" "Friends," I said, shaking my head. "You mean the same friends who think it's fine for you to be with him? The ones who cover for you while you—" I stopped myself, my voice breaking. "Do you even care about this marriage anymore?" Her eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. "Of course I care. But I'm not going to stand here and let you interrogate me like I'm a criminal. You're exhausting, Jason." "Exhausting?" I snapped, stepping closer. "Do you have any idea what it's like to sit here night after night, wondering if my wife is cheating on me? Watching you slip further and further away while you treat me like I'm nothing." Her face hardened, and for a moment, I thought she was going to yell. But instead, she just shook her head. "Maybe you should stop trying so hard to control me and take a look at yourself. I'm not the only problem here, Jason." With that, she turned and walked into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her. I stood there, my fists clenched, the silence of the house almost deafening. I wanted to chase after her, to force her to talk to me, but what was the point? She wasn't listening, and I was too drained to keep fighting. That night, as I lay back on the couch, staring at the ceiling, one thought kept running through my mind. This can't go on. Something had to change, one way or another. But deep down, I feared that it already had, and that there was no coming back from it. The next day, Sarah was gone before I even woke up. No note, no text, nothing. Just an empty bed and the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, trying to convince myself that this was just another fight, that we'd find a way to move past it, like we always did. But deep down, I wasn't sure if I even believed that anymore. By noon, my frustration had boiled over. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through Sarah's social media, hoping for some kind of clue about where she was. Nothing. Her accounts were all locked down, her posts sparse. But I wasn't going to let it end there. I pulled up her location-sharing app, a feature we'd both installed years ago for safety reasons. She wasn't at work. She wasn't at Brenda's or Jessica's either. Her location pinged at a small cafe downtown, a place we used to go to when we were first dating. My chest tightened. Was she there with him? Against my better judgment, I grabbed my keys and drove to the cafe. I parked down the street, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. I told myself I wouldn't go inside, that I'd just sit there and wait, but curiosity got the better of me. I needed to know. I walked in, scanning the room, and there she was. Sarah sat in a corner booth, her back to me, and across from her, smiling like he didn't have a care in the world, was him, the man from the club. My heart sank as I watched them. They were leaning close, their heads nearly touching. She laughed at something he said, her hand resting on his arm. It was a kind of warmth I hadn't seen from her in months, and it made my stomach churn. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked up to their table, my footsteps heavy and deliberate. Sarah turned to look at me, her eyes widening in shock. "Jason," she said, her voice laced with panic. "Who's your friend?" I asked, my tone cold as I looked directly at him. He didn't flinch. If anything, he looked amused. "I'm Mark," he said, extending a hand as if we were meeting at a networking event. I ignored it, my eyes fixed on Sarah. "This is what you've been doing? Sneaking around, lying to me, and meeting him behind my back." Sarah's face turned red, and she started to speak, but Mark cut her off. "Look, man, maybe we should talk somewhere else. No need to cause a scene." "A scene?" I laughed bitterly. "You think this is about me causing a scene? You've been sleeping with my wife, and you think I'm the one out of line." Sarah stood up, her voice sharp and defensive. "Jason, stop it. You're embarrassing yourself." "Embarrassing myself?" I said, my voice shaking. "No, Sarah, you've done that for me. You've been tearing this marriage apart, piece by piece, and I've been sitting here blaming myself for your mistakes." The entire cafe was staring now, the murmur of voices buzzing around us, but I didn't care. I was done pretending everything was okay. "Sarah," I said, my voice lowering as I stared into her eyes. "Do you even love me anymore?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. For a moment, I thought I saw regret in her eyes, but then she glanced at Mark, and her expression hardened. "I don't know, Jason," she said finally. "Maybe I haven't for a long time." Her words hit me like a freight train. My legs felt weak, and the room seemed to spin around me. Without another word, I turned and walked out, leaving her and Mark behind. I didn't want to see their faces, didn't want to hear another excuse or lie. As I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, one thought kept playing in my mind. It's over. Whether I wanted to admit it or not, the woman I had loved was gone, and all that was left was a stranger who didn't care if she destroyed me. The drive home was a blur. My mind replayed her words over and over. Maybe I haven't for a long time. It felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest, and yet there was an odd clarity to it. I had spent so much time trying to save something that she'd already let go of. When I got home, the house felt emptier than ever. I sat on the couch, staring at the walls, trying to process everything. I had no plan, no idea what to do next. Should I leave? Should I confront her again? Should I just let it all go? Every option felt like a dead end. Around midnight, Sarah walked through the door. She didn't say a word, just dropped her purse on the table and went straight to the bedroom. I followed her, unable to stay silent any longer. "Do you even care about what you've done?" I asked, standing in the doorway as she started taking off her jewelry. She sighed, not even looking at me. "Jason, I'm too tired for this right now." "Too tired," I said, my voice rising. "You're too tired to deal with the fallout of your lies, but you're not too tired to spend the night with him?" She turned to me, her face cold and unyielding. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? Fine. I'm sorry. Are you happy now?" "Sorry," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "You're not sorry, Sarah. You don't feel anything, do you? You've checked out of this marriage, and now you're just waiting for me to clean up the mess." She crossed her arms, her gaze defiant. "You think I'm the only one at fault here? You think I just woke up one day and decided to do this? No, Jason, this didn't happen in a vacuum. You've been absent, stuck in your own little world, and I got tired of waiting for you to notice me." Her words stung, but I refused to let her rewrite the narrative. "Don't you dare blame this on me," I said, my voice shaking. I've been here, Sarah. I've been fighting for us, even when it felt like I was the only one trying. But you gave up. You chose to lie, to cheat, to destroy everything we built. She rolled her eyes. You're so dramatic. Maybe if you'd spent less time whining and more time being the man I needed, we wouldn't be here. I stood there, staring at her, the weight of her words crushing me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg her to take it all back, but I knew it wouldn't matter. She was too far gone, and nothing I said would change that. Finally, I spoke, my voice quiet but firm. I can't do this anymore, Sarah. I can't keep pretending that this is something we can fix. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. What are you saying? I'm saying it's over, I said, my chest tightening as the words left my mouth. I'm done fighting for someone who doesn't care if I lose. For a moment, she didn't respond. Then, with a shrug, she said, maybe that's for the best. Her indifference hit me harder than anything else. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her to whatever life she thought was better than the one we had. That night, as I lay on the couch for what I knew would be one of the last times in this house, I felt a strange sense of peace mixed with overwhelming grief. I wasn't sure what the future held, but one thing was clear. I couldn't keep living like this. Sarah had made her choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. The next morning, I packed a bag and left before she woke up. I didn't leave a note, didn't say goodbye. There was nothing left to say. As I drove away, the weight on my chest began to lift, little by little. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The days after I left were quiet, but strangely liberating. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town, taking only the essentials and leaving everything else behind. The first thing I did was delete the video I had taken at the club, not because I wanted to forget, but because I didn't see the point in holding on to something that no longer mattered. Sarah never reached out. No calls, no texts, nothing. Maybe that was her way of confirming what I already knew. She had chosen her path. I didn't check her social media or ask mutual friends about her. Letting go of her felt like deleting an old file. Painful at first, but eventually freeing. I began rediscovering life on my own terms. I signed up for a gym membership, started taking long walks in the park, and even joined a cooking class to stop relying on takeout. Every small step felt like reclaiming a part of myself I had forgotten. A few months later, I met someone. Lauren. She was volunteering at a charity event I was helping with through my new job. Her smile was warm, her voice calm, and she talked to me as if she truly wanted to listen. At first, I was hesitant to let someone into my life again, but over time, we started meeting for coffee, then dinners, and eventually, it became something deeper. For the first time in years, I felt a genuine connection, something real and uncomplicated. As for Sarah, I heard through mutual acquaintances that her relationship with Mark didn't last long. Once the initial excitement wore off, reality set in, and he turned out to be just as unreliable as she was. What happened to her after that? I don't know, and I don't care to find out. That chapter of my life is closed. Now, as I look back, I don't feel anger or regret, just relief. Losing Sarah wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of something better. Sometimes, the hardest endings lead to the most meaningful new beginnings, and this time, I'm ready for it.